We're getting towards wedding season, and if you've got a formal event coming up in the near future, this video might prove useful. Dress watches are simple pieces that harken back to the refined elegance associated with primarily the 1930s. They are traditionally smaller, thinner watches designed to fit under the cuff of a shirt and to be paired with formal attire. This video is a little more specific though. I'm going to be looking to identify dress watches on a tight budget. I've been there before, invited to an event that requires smart dress, and I've got nothing. If you've got to get yourself a suit, formal shoes, perhaps a wedding gift, there's often not much budget left over for a watch to match, and so I hope I can help in that regard. Though there are of course many other use case scenarios that might call for a dress piece. You might just want to treat yourself. I've followed a brief set of rules to help guide my choices. First of which, the watches featured must all be dress pieces. Secondly, they must be available at the time of writing for less than $100. Where those prices are based on second-hand pieces, I will flag them up as vintage or second-hand on the title cards. And finally, for the sake of variety, each brand can only feature once on the list. With all that said, let's get into the video. I have one of these on order to review on the channel in the next few months, but it's actually been mentioned a number of times in the comments of my previous videos. It's quite a blunt homage to the Cartier Tank in truth, but that's why it's so popular. The specs are what you'd expect: a zinc alloy case, quartz movement, hardened mineral crystal, and only 30 meters of water resistance, which you describe as splash proof. The basic model is available in 27 and 24mm diameters, and one of the other real appeals of this watch is that you'll often find a his and hers bundle available combining both sizes for only around $20. I value Casio for their affordability, reliability, and build quality. Pagani are one of the only other brands that even come close for me when it comes to watches below $100. I've had a few models from them at this point, and while there are hits and misses with the design language, a lot of which is unoriginal, the actual watches have been really impressive in terms of specifications and quality control. The PD1654 isn't just a basic dress piece either. It has a folded circular texture to the dial, a date subdial, and a mecha quartz movement. The only real downside from my perspective is the 40mm sizing, but to some people that would absolutely be seen as a benefit. On that note, while Casio may not be the first watch brand that comes to mind when thinking about dress pieces, they most definitely do make them. At 32mm in diameter and under 9mm thick, the AQ-800E definitely fits into dress watch territory in terms of its dimensions. It's unconventional and certainly 80s inspired rather than a more traditional dress style. However, I do think it fits the bill, and this wouldn't be much of a list if it was just 10 watches that all look the same. This model has an ANI Digi display to track 2 time zones and comes in a range of different colours, so could be colour matched to specific colour schemes, as can often be a requirement at weddings. There's that old saying with weddings about something old, something new, something borrowed, and something blue. Well, if you look at the modern Timex range of dress watches from their official site, you're not going to find anything below $100. But here is where you can play into their current design philosophy. Essentially, They have been re-releasing their back catalogue for a fair few years now, and while updated versions might be beyond the price point of this video's budget, the vintage originals aren't. There are some really nice pieces, especially from the 70s, in working condition, with a huge amount of choice on offer from the Marlin range alone. I will also say that you can pick up Timex dress pieces from the brand, new and under budget, but not from the official site, as it's mostly new old stock or watches made for other vendors that fit below the budget for the video. At 37mm, I do think the sizing of this watch is absolutely perfect for most people when it comes to a modern dress watch. Traditionally, I would think that 34mm is a more common sizing for a dress piece, but given that a lot of watches now are north of 40mm, going that small can be a bit of a shock to the system to some people. At 37mm, this walks a fine line between being small enough to be a dress piece while still having enough presence on wrist to feel right for everyday wear. The real appeal of the T001 is the dial. It's layered and structured around a series of tracks around the outside, which do a great job of framing the central small second subdial. It's a really nice piece. I recently reviewed this piece on the channel, and while the Datejust style really places it somewhere between a formal and casual watch, I definitely think it's a style you can pull off with a suit without any issue at most formal events. The real selling point of this watch is the gradient enamel dial, which honestly footage does not really do justice to. And it's all the more remarkable given the low cost of entry for this model. If you want more detailed information, I'll leave a link to my review video in the description. There's also a $5 discount code in that video description, valid for a couple of days still when this video goes live, if this is a piece that catches your eye. There are so many different vintage Seiko models online that come up when using tank as a search term that I thought it best to just leave it at that in the description. Since the 1970s, Seiko have been producing quartz watches inspired by the Tank's Art Deco design. None of them are called the Tank, of course, but vendors tend to name them as such. This long history of producing models in this style means that effectively you will be spoilt for choice when it comes to dial colours, textures, straps, bracelets, and numeral configurations. But of course, as these are all second-hand, prices, availability, and condition will all vary wildly, so be diligent in your searching. I do think that it may well be possible to pick up models in the Citizen BM8242 range brand new under the $100 mark during big sale windows. I've played it safe though and based my inclusion on a second-hand listing. This 36mm in diameter, 8mm thick model range utilises Citizen's EcoDrive solar-powered quartz movements. They also feature day-date complications and have an aesthetic feature which, at the very least, I have not seen before. The dial features 3 thin numerals, but they're at 12, 8 and 4, with indices marking the other hours and a raised centre to the dial with a colour match handset in the middle. There is a black and cream dial version with this design, and then a white dial version with Roman numerals that mark each hour. Swatch might not be the first brand that springs to mind when you think of dress watches, but there are a few models in their lineup that sort of fit the bill. I've picked out the Skinwind SS07S101, what a name, as the model to feature, as it most definitely looks the part and at 6.7mm thick will most definitely fit under a cuff. However, at 42mm it only really works as a dress watch for those with much larger wrists than average. The entire 34mm range, on the other hand, would also fit under budget and be up for consideration. They have the dimensions but not the look and style of dress watches, but would work well if the event you're wearing requires some kind of colour coordination. This is another model where there is a chance that you might get one on or around $100 new during peak sale periods. There are a few times on the list where I've veered away from what you would think of as a stereotypical dress watch, so I wanted to make sure I finished with one that absolutely is. This model is 37mm in diameter, is just under 6mm thick, and features an extremely stripped back, minimalist design language that means it will pair with almost anything. It has a small window at 3 o'clock for a date complication, and you'll no doubt have guessed from the price point and thickness that this is a quartz powered piece. It's about as much bang for your buck as you can hope to achieve in terms of brand prestige under $100 in a dress piece. So there we have it, what I consider to be the 10 best dress watches you can pick up for less than $100. I'm fairly sure some of the choices that I've included will be controversial. They're definitely not all stereotypical dress watches, that's for sure, and I could have made a list of pieces that all have that very traditional, simple, formal look to them. But once I've included a couple, they're all much of a muchness at this budget, and the list became very stale very quickly, so I wanted to branch out. I'd love to discuss my choices with you, especially if you have experience with these watches, or if you have other suggestions that you feel could, or indeed should, have featured here. Let's discuss in the comments section below. As ever, thank you for your time. If you've enjoyed what you've seen or found it informative, consider dropping the video a like and subscribing for more content like this in future.